So you're running a nonprofit in California. You're doing amazing work. You're focused on your mission. And then, bam, you hit this wall. You find out your organization has been suspended. It's a terrible feeling, right? That's sinking in your stomach. But listen, don't worry. This is actually fixable. We're going to break down exactly what happened and how you can get through it. And this is probably how you found out. You were so close to getting that grant that you really needed, and then you get that email. We're sorry your application has been rejected because your organization is suspended. Your heart just sinks. What does that even mean? Where did that come from? It honestly feels like the rug's been pulled out from under you. Okay, first things first. Just take a deep breath. Seriously, you are not the first nonprofit this has happened to, and you definitely won't be the last. It's a surprisingly common headache for organizations in California. And the really good news, it is 100% fixable. I'm going to walk you through why this happened and the exact steps you need to take to get everything back on track.
To really get the solution, you've got to understand the problem. And, the reason this whole thing is so confusing is that nonprofit compliance in California is basically a three-ring circus. You're not just dealing with one state agency, you're dealing with three. And the craziest part? They don't really talk to each other.
This is what I call the compliance triangle. You've got to keep 3 different agencies happy. So first up, you've got the Secretary of State. They control your basic legal right to exist. Miss their simple Statement of Information filing, which is just a form you file every couple of years, and they can suspend you. Then there's the Franchise Tax Board. They're the ones who control your state tax exemption, and that's tied to your annual Form 199. And finally, you have the Attorney General, who oversees your permission to actually ask for money, to fundraise, with something called the RRF-1 renewal. And here is the most important thing to get. You could be perfectly fine with 2 of them. But if you get a red light from just one, that's it. That one failure is enough to get you suspended and stop your funding dead in its tracks.
So why is this such a big deal? I mean, it's not just about one rejected grant application, as painful as that is. The consequences of just letting this go can be really, really severe. It can literally halt your mission. Let's look at what's actually on the line with each of these agencies.
Okay, so if the Secretary of State suspends you, your status flips from active to suspended. And that's not just some label. It means you legally lose the ability to operate as a corporation. You can't sign contracts, you can't accept that grant money, you can even legally write checks to pay your bills. Your nonprofit is essentially frozen in time. Now, a suspension from the Franchise Tax Board is just as bad. What they do is they revoke your state tax-exempt status. This is usually the one that funders catch. Because when they do their homework and look you up, the result that comes back for your nonprofit's name is that one scary word, suspended. And for any grant maker, that is a giant, flashing red flag.
And let's not forget the Attorney General. If you miss your RFF renewal, your status becomes delinquent. And what that means is you no longer have the legal authority to solicit donations in California. So if you keep fundraising, sending out emails, holding events, you're technically breaking the law, and that can open you up to some serious trouble.
And on top of all that, there's a very real direct financial cost. The Franchise Tax Board will hit you with a minimum franchise tax of $800 for every single year you're suspended. And no, that's not a one-time fee. It stacks up year after year along with penalties and interest. So a problem that's been ignored for a couple of years can easily turn into a bill for thousands of dollars. Okay, that was all the bad news, you get it? The stakes are high. But now, let's talk about the good news. There is a clear, step-by-step path to getting back into good standing with all 3 of these agencies. Let's walk through your comeback plan right now. First, it's really important to manage your expectations when it comes to timing. The Secretary of State, they're the fastest. You can often get that fixed within a couple of weeks. The Attorney General is kind of in the middle. The one you really have to watch out for is the Franchise Tax Board. They are almost always the slowest, and it can take up to 2 months, sometimes even longer. So if you've got issues with all 3, just remember, your total time to get back to normal is dictated by the slowest link in that chain. So plan on this being at least a 2-month journey to get fully in the clear. The process itself is actually pretty logical. Step 1, you've got to verify your status with all 3 agencies. Don't assume it's just one. You need to see the whole picture. Step 2, identify exactly which forms you missed and for which years. Step 3, you got to prepare and submit all that overdue paperwork. Step 4, pay up. That means all the fees, the taxes, and the penalties that have stacked up. And finally, step 5, and this is crucial, you have to follow up and monitor the situation until you get confirmation that each agency has officially changed your status back to active or current. Now, when it comes to paying those costs, there's a really important term you should know: penalty abatement. Look, you're pretty much always going to have to pay the back taxes and the filing fees, but you can often request that the penalties, the late fees, be reduced or even waived completely. If you have what they call reasonable cause, maybe there was major board turnover or a bookkeeping error that's since been fixed, or maybe this is your very first time having a problem, the agencies are often willing to work with you. It's always worth asking. Getting everything restored is going to feel like a huge weight off your shoulders. But the real victory? Making sure this crisis never, ever happens to you again. The final, most important part of this is moving from just reacting and fixing to being proactive and preventing it. The great news here is that prevention isn't about complicated legal stuff. It's just about having simple, smart systems in place. Things like a master compliance calendar with every single deadline, setting up automated reminders, assigning one specific person to be responsible for each filing. But if I can give you just one key takeaway, it's this. Do a quarterly self-audit. Seriously, just take 5 minutes every 3 months to check your status on all 3 of those agency websites. That one simple habit will help you catch any little problem before it ever explodes into a full-blown crisis. And this really says it all, doesn't it? The amount of time, money, and just pure stress you will spend fixing a suspension will always be more than the small, consistent effort it takes to prevent one. Building a simple system for this stuff is one of the best investments you can possibly make in your nonprofit's future. So let's end with this question, one for you to take back to your team. Have you been treating compliance like some boring chore and afterthought? Or do you treat it like a core operational priority, something just as important as your programs or your fundraising? Shifting that mindset, that is the ultimate key to making sure your incredible mission is never ever sidelined by a preventable problem like this again.